What's up guys, Lundrick here, and now I'm bringing you a new series to the channel because WrestleMania season is upon us, and 2 years ago I reviewed every WrestleMania. Last year I did all the retrospectives. So in this year I've not got a lot planned, but I'm going to do this to tide me over. It's basically going back to doing some rebookings. Now before I get started, what I might do before I upload this videos, make a little playlist on my channel to put all the previous WrestleManias I've rebooked. So far I've rebooked WrestleMania 9, 11, 2000, 27 and 29. So I'm going to put them in a thingy, what do you call them, a playlist on the channel, so you can see them if you haven't seen them before. And just to remind people that I've done them before, so don't ask us to do them again. So I did do some rebooting of WrestleManias last year. Not as much as I would have liked, but since I've got nothing major planned for WrestleMania season this year, I want to rebook a few, and also going to do WrestleMania retrospective on WrestleMania 30 because I've done 1 to 29 last year. So a year later I'm going to do a retrospective of WrestleMania 30. Yeah. Also, just if anyone's wondered, I'm not going to do a rant on the whole Roman Reigns Royal Rumble situation. Instead, all I need to say in Astor FM, there's been plenty of rants on the YWC, so there's nothing really for me to add there. I mean, if you follow me on Astor FM, you know my views on that. So anyway, getting back on the topic, this is rebooking of a WrestleMania which I feel needs rebooking. The WrestleMania that I actually thought was a good WrestleMania, but could have been a great WrestleMania, and that's WrestleMania VIII in 1992 from the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis, Indiana. Now, before we get to my rebooking of the card, let's recap and remember what the real card was. Main event of Hulk Hogan versus Sid Justice. World Wrestling Federation Championship match, Ric Flair versus Randy Savage. That was a double main event, kind of. Intercontinental Championship, Roddy Piper defending against Bret Hart. Tag Team Champions, Money Inc. defending against the Natural Disasters. We got The Undertaker versus Jake the Snake Roberts. Tatanka versus the model Rick Martel. Owen Hart versus Skinner. Shawn Michaels versus El Matador. An 8-man tag team match, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Sergeant Slaughter, the Big Boss Man, and Virgil versus the Nasty Boys, the Mountie and Repo Man. So, what I've done, that's 9 matches. On my rebook, and there's only 8 matches. And yeah, let's just get right into it. Also, what British Bulldog versus Berserker was supposed to happen on this card, but got cut at the last minute due to time constraints. So yeah, let's just get right into it. 8 matches, and here we go. My opening match of WrestleMania 8 is Shawn Michaels taking on the British Bulldog. So in real life, Shawn Michaels faced El Matador, which was cool. I mean, Shawn Michaels had just started his singles run, turning on Marty Jannetty right before the 1992 Royal Rumble. Major heel turn, super kick on the barbershop. Some would say Shawn Michaels threw Marty Jannetty through the barbershop window, but other people would suggest that Marty Jannetty jumped through the window to get away from Shawn Michaels. Just joking, but that's what Bobby Heenan said. Oh, he tried to jump out the window to get away. But in all seriousness, that barbershop moment is probably one of the greatest heel turns of all time in WWE. I mean, throughout Shawn's career, they replayed that thing about 1,000 times, and yeah, definitely one of the most memorable heel turns ever. So then, coming into here, Shawn Michaels is now rechristened himself the Heartbreak Kid. Just ignore that. That's something. Just ignore that. That's just my phone going off. He's rechristened himself the Heartbreak Kid, managed by Sensational Sherry. As a cocky heel, which he would be for about 2 or 3 years before becoming the man in 1996. Now, he'd wrestled El Matador, Tito Santana on this card, which was cool, but at the end of the day, Santana was pretty much a jobber to the stars at this point, and beating Santana was not that big a deal. Now, the British Bulldog was a pretty over guy at the time, upper mid-card guy. He was both a wrestler and Berserker on this card, and I just feel putting Shawn and the Bulldog together would be a better match. I mean, Shawn Michaels and British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith had actually some really underrated chemistry over the years. He had that Intercontinental title match later that year on Saturday Night's Main Event. A really good Raw match from March of 1995. An underrated match at King of the Ring 1996 for the WWF title. And the most famous match, of course, coming at one night only in Birmingham, England in 1997. But point is, Shawn Michaels always brought the best out of the British Bulldog. And there's been no real storyline for this one. I mean, on some of these old WrestleManias, a lot of matches didn't really have a storyline. It was just so-and-so wrestling so-and-so. And this is kind of how this would be. Give them a good 10 minutes to open up the show. I think you'd have a better match than Shawn and Tito did. Anyway. And I think the fans would be in it more because Bulldog was more of a star than Santana. And, but in real life, Shawn Michaels gets the victory here to kickstart his singles run. I mean, like I say, Shawn Michaels beating the British Bulldog sounds a lot better on paper than Shawn beating El Matador. So Shawn Michaels over the British Bulldog in the opening match. Now match number 2 was the second match in the streak. And the match I'm going for is The Undertaker versus Sid Justice. I mean, by that you probably know exactly what I'm going to book as a main event, but we'll get into that. So, Sid Justice can turn heel at some point in time. They can tease him, The Undertaker, for a while. Possibly after Sid Justice has a jobber match and starts going crazy. The Undertaker makes his entrance for the next match, and him and Sid have a brief little stare down. Perhaps in another match, Sid's beating up on a poor jobber a little while later, and The Undertaker comes out and makes a save and attacks Sid Justice, turning babyface. So we've got Sid coming in as a heel and Undertaker as a freshly turned babyface. I mean, I think Undertaker had a great face turn in 1992. In real life, he turned on Jake Roberts, but he'd been pushed as a monster heel throughout 1991. But that Undertaker character was so cool. I mean, fans started to like him, especially during his feud with Hulk Hogan. I mean, remember Survivor Series in 1991, where a good portion of the audience was cheering cheering the Undertaker over Hogan. Then he had his little title run, but his popularity was growing into 1992, and it was definitely the right time for a big face turn. He's a very over character. And I think we got a monster heel versus monster babyface now. Granted, this match probably wouldn't be that good, but it would make sense to do because Sid Justice, one of the few guys on the roster who could physically stand up to The Undertaker and all that stuff. Yeah, so I think this will be probably be pretty bad, but it's not really the point. I mean, as long as it was booked right and kept to a decent length, maybe 8 minutes, something like that. It doesn't need to drag on for too long, you know. And then obviously the streak continues with 2-0. Undertaker over Sid Justice in match number 2. Now match number 3, keeping it like in real life, Intercontinental Championship, Roddy Piper defending against Bret Hart. Would not change a thing about this. Loved this match, talked about it in the past. Great build-up of Bret losing the title to the Mountie, Piper taking the title of the Mountie at the Royal Rumble, and then Bret getting his rematch in a face versus face scenario. And loved the pre-match promo. Thought the actual match was absolutely fantastic. Great match. My favourite ever Roddy Piper match. Kind of gets lost in Bret Hart's collection of great matches over the years, but this was really a big deal for Bret to beat Piper. And also exactly the same result. Bret Hart beats Roddy Piper to regain the Intercontinental Championship. Yeah. So this is one of only 2 matches on the card that I've kept exactly the same. Oh, fuck off. Sorry about that. Just my phone keeps going off. Just ignore. I don't know if that's showing up on the video or not, but whatever. So yeah, Bret Hart over Roddy Piper to regain the Intercontinental title. Now match number 4 for match number 4 is a modified version of what happened in real life. So the 8-man tag, I'm changing it to a 10-man tag, and then changing it to the Nasty Boys, the Mountie, taking out the Repo Man, but adding the Natural Disasters. So that's because they're all managed by Jimmy Hart, and as you can imagine by that, I've got another plan for Money Inc. And then on the face team, keep the same 4 guys: Duggan, Slaughter, Bossman, Virgil, and then add El Matador, Tito Santana to the equation, making up the 5, plus making this a 10-man tag. So pretty not so much a rebooking of it, but just an edit, a little bit of a tweaking of this match. No problems here. Give them the same amount of time and all that. Maybe a little bit longer to compensate for the fact that I've scrapped one match. So maybe add 1 or 2 minutes to it to make it like 7 minutes or something like that. And also, like in real life, have the face team win, just for the hell of it. But yeah. So the face team go over just like in real life. Now, match number 5 for the WWF Tag Team titles. Money Inc. defending against the Legion of Doom. Now, this might require a bit of explanation because the Legion of Doom didn't actually wrestle on this card. So, if I recall right, this is what happened. So, early 1992, Hawk fails a drug test. And then, on a house show somewhere, I can't remember where it was, Money Inc. Beat the Legion of Doom to become the Tag Team Championships. Hawk serves his suspension. And the Legion of Doom returning a non-wrestling role on this card. So, I would take that, what happened, Hawk failing the drug test, dropping the titles to Money Inc. Only instead, I would announce a while later, because I think the Natural Disasters attacked them and helped Money Inc. win the title, if I recall correctly. Say that Hawk was injured and was out of action for a while, but then the Legion of Doom were going to get the rematch for the tag team titles at WrestleMania. You could keep Animal on television to cut promos and all that, helping the match. Say the Hawk's going to be back very soon, back for WrestleMania and all that. Even have where, like, because Hawk's not there, Money Inc. can continually put Animal in 2-on-1 situations where they could beat him down a few times and that. And then talk about Animal, because Jimmy Hart interfering in all Legion, Money Inc. matches. Animal can then start talking about how he's got a plan to counteract Jimmy Hart and all that. So yeah, so Hawk's not there the entire time because he's doing his suspension. But keep Animal on television, say the Hawk's injured. Then when we get to the match, oh, for fuck's sake, will you fuck off? I'm recording. Sorry about that, it's kind of pissed me off now. Right, so anyway, so we get the match, Money Inc. come out. The Road Warriors come out and then say they've got a surprise for you. Then they can, because introduce Paul Ellering, because on the show Paul Ellering came back as the Legion of Doom manager. So have the Legion of Doom come out and say that Paul Ellering's back and he's watching the back to counteract Jimmy Hart and get the match and give them a good 12 minutes. I mean, SummerSlam 1992 they had a pretty good opener, and I think they could have a good opener here as well. Not a good opener, a good match, sorry. I mean, Money Inc. are a good tag team. Legion of Doom are at least decent wrestlers, but a very overact. So give them a good 12 minutes to play with, and then I would have Jimmy Hart trying to interfere, then Paul Ellering fighting with him on the outside. That distracts the referee. IRS throws the briefcase at Ted DiBiase. DiBiase hits Animal in the head with the metal briefcase, and then the Money Inc. Pin the Legion of Doom to retain the tag team titles. I think the part of the reason the Legion of Doom didn't get the tag team titles back is because of Hawk's drug problem, and him and Hawk and Vince were having a little squabbling at the time and all that, so that's pretty much why it didn't happen. So yeah, there you go. Money Inc. retain the tag team titles. Now, match number 6 is part of the same way. Actually, no, right, we'll jig it around. So, match number 6, just a little buff match before the 2 main events. It's the same match that happened in real life, and that's Tatanka versus model Rick Martel. I mean, Martel was settled into a nice veteran role at this time. Tatanka was a newcomer in the WWF with an Indian gimmick. He did really well for himself as well. I think he was a good mid-card player. Progressed quite a bit in 1992, being undefeated. Really got over well in 1993, but never quite broke out of the mid-card pact. think he was a good mid-carder for the time, though. He's a decent, but he's a good wrestler, I would say, but not a great one. Had a good look and all that. Probably should have won the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania 9, but whatever. So yeah, match exactly the same, and same result of the tank going over, same amount of time and all that. Now the two main events of WrestleMania 8 as followed. The first one, match number 7, steel cage match with the loser leaving the WWF. And that's Macho Man Randy Savage versus Jake Snake Roberts, finally blowing off the epic rivalry now. This all started back at SummerSlam, where Savage and Elizabeth's wedding reception was gate crashed by Jake Snake and The Undertaker. Jake put a cobra in one of Elizabeth's presents and all that. She freaked out. Then for the next few weeks, the Savage-Jake rivalry in late 1991 going to 1992 was absolutely amazing. Jake the Snake was unbelievable heel during this time. So Savage was absolutely furious because, if you recall, Savage had lost a retirement match at WrestleMania 7 to the Ultimate Warrior. And then after SummerSlam, Savage went on a campaign to reinstate the Macho Man. At first, Jack Tunney was saying no, he can't do it. And then he was getting the support of the fans, so Tony had a big decision to make. Meanwhile, Jake the Snake was absolutely killing it on the mic. Some great shit there, really. This led to right before Survivor Series and one of my favourite actual angles of all time. So Jake's wrestling some random jobber on, I think it was Superstar. Either Superstars or Wrestling Challenge. I think Superstars though. So Jake beat some guy, because Savage was doing commentary at the time. Jake taunts Savage into getting into the ring with him. Jake eventually gets the better of Savage, ties him in the ropes, takes the Cobra out, and then has the Cobra bite Macho Man Randy Savage on the arm, which, what a storyline that was. I mean, obviously the snake was devenomized, it had no poison in it, but in the sense that the snake was actually, literally, for real, biting Randy Savage's arm, that part of the storyline is very, very real. I mean, you got to give Randy Savage a hell of a lot of credit for that. I mean, Jesus Christ, he let an actual cobra bite on his arm. I mean, honestly, it was just really, really out of the box at the time. Really cutting edge stuff. It was really awesome. Because there was speculated that Tony might have allowed Savage to return to Survivor Series, but he'd held it off, then officially reinstated the Macho Man. Then put him in a match with Jake the Snake Roberts at this Tuesday in Texas in December 1991. That was an experimental Tuesday night pay-per-view that they had in 1991. Remember it very well. And Jake and Savage, they had a solid match, but went about 5 minutes. Savage won, but then the post-match was amazing. I mean, Jake beat down Savage with DDTs. Elizabeth came out to try and stop him, and then Jake the Snake slapped Elizabeth in the face. I mean, wow, he slapped Elizabeth in the face. That's something you just don't do, really. I mean, fuck me. This was really big stuff at the time. Jake had so much heat on him. Some of his promos are as good a heel promos as you'll ever see. And then they had the blow-off in real life, they had the blow-off in February 1992, Saturday Night Main Event, where Savage then went off to feud with Flair over the world title and Jake feud with The Undertaker. But what if I would have done is kept this feud going and had it blown off here at WrestleMania. I mean, it was definitely a WrestleMania worthy angle. And of course, Jake the Snake was actually leaving the WWF after WrestleMania 8, so it made perfect sense for him to have a loser leave the WWF. And also Elizabeth barred from ringside, and because of the thing of the situation, have it in a steel cage match, which would make it the second steel cage match in WrestleMania history in real life after WrestleMania 2. It's kind of amazing in 30 WrestleManias there's only actually been one steel cage match in the history of WrestleMania. And that was Hulk Hogan King Kong Bundy at WrestleMania 2. But yeah, because this was back in the days of the blue bar cage, so steel cage match, loser leaves the WWF, Savage versus Roberts, and I actually think this could be a borderline classic if they did this. I mean, Savage obviously don't need to talk about how good he was. Savage, one of the all-time great in-ring performers. Jake the Snake could be very good with the right guy. I mean, him and Savage had a great match in November of 1986 on Saturday Night Main Event one time for the Intercontinental title. And I would like, if I would have this happened, I think this would definitely be the best match Jake ever had. I mean, granted, Savage and Flair would have been a better match, but this would have been a hell of a lot bigger, and it would have been a great brawl, I think. Jake was expert at wrestling psychology, and yeah, I just think this would be an awesome match. And obviously for the finish with Jake leaving, and obviously the end of the feud like this, the babyface normally wins. So Savage defeats Roberts to get Roberts leaves the WWF, and then Savage can go on from there, which leads us to the, and I'm sure to the shock of actually no one, main event for WrestleMania VIII for the World Wrestling Federation title. Hulk Hogan challenging Ric Flair for the WWF title. I mean, it's been debated for over 20 years why this match never happened, but I think at least 95% of us can all agree that Hulk Hogan versus Ric Flair should have happened at WrestleMania VIII. I mean, and I've like I said before in other videos, WWE's never adequately explained it to me. They try to make out that the matches of the house shows were disappointing, that's why they didn't do it, but that doesn't wash with me at all. I mean, I've seen some of these house show matches and they're pretty good. They're not great. I mean, come on, Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair was the ultimate 1980s dream match. I mean, for years you had Hulk Hogan as a WWF champion running wild and everything of Hulkamania. And on the other side, in the NWA, you had Ric Flair as the NWA World Champion, carrying the NWA as this amazing heel, having these amazing title matches. And always in the back of your mind, what if one day Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair wrestled? And there was finally an opportunity for that happened because Ric Flair had finally come to the WWF in September 1991 as the real world champion. That's exactly what they were building to as well. I mean, you had Flair win the Royal Rumble that year to become the world WWF champion, and then it was actually announced as Hulk Hogan versus Ric Flair for the title. And then because Sid turned on Hogan and that, they changed the matches around, so Hogan would wrestle Sid and Savage would wrestle Flair. And it also came out that probably due to the steroid scandal and other issues that Hulk Hogan was going to leave the WWF for a while to get away from all the heat and that. And it was billed as this possibly being Hulk Hogan's last match, so Hulk Hogan was leaving, and probably the reason it didn't happen is because they couldn't agree on a finish. I mean, I'm sure Hogan wanted to beat Flair and walk out the champion, but Vince couldn't let that happen. He couldn't put the title on Hogan if he was leaving. So, and there was no way that Hogan was going to job to Ric Flair in WWF territory and all that. So here's the match, Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair for the world title. I think this could be a great match. Potentially Hogan's greatest ever match. I think it would have drawn a much bigger... WrestleMania 8 did draw a good buy rate, but I think could have drawn a much better buy rate if it was Hogan and Flair and it was built right. I think a lot of NWA fans might have tuned into WrestleMania this year to see Flair and Hogan, to see what it would be like. Few people that hadn't watched wrestling in a while, I think. Yeah, I just think it would have drawn a lot. I think it would have been big money in that 50,000 plus stadium as well. It was a perfect setting to do it. Biggest show of the year, WrestleMania. Hogan, Flair. I think this would be a great match, actually. Give them like 18 minutes, and now this is where I might get a lot of disagreements, but this is my rebooking and whatever. So I try to book these shows as realistically as possible, and I would assume in trying to pitch the fact that Hulk Hogan outright jobs to Ric Flair, I'd probably state and say, that don't work for me, brother. So for the finish, I'm going to do what happened in real life. So Hulk Hogan's about to beat Ric Flair. Mr. Perfect, Flair's executive consultant, comes in and attacks Hogan, calls for the DQ, and then I know that wouldn't be ideal finish, but I think it's a lot better than not doing the match at all. Hogan and Sid ended in a DQ, and then so Flair and Perfect are beating down Hogan, and then just like in real life, the Ultimate Warrior returns. The Ultimate Warrior runs to the ring, cleans Flair and Perfect out, Then late in real life, Hogan and the Warrior celebrate at the end. So I know it's not. I know probably not the perfect finish, but under the circumstances, I think it's the right one. So Hulk Hogan wins the match by disqualification, but Ric Flair retains the WWE Championship. Hogan rides off into the sunset for a year, and then from there you've got Ric Flair still the champion. You could possibly now feud with the Ultimate Warrior for the title, feud with Randy Savage for the title after that. So yeah, that's my WrestleMania 8 rebooking. Comment in the section below, please, and I'm going to try and do at least one of these every week and up until WrestleMania. And that's including the WrestleMania retrospective week and all that. So I'm going to try and hit some of the bad WrestleMania, some of the better WrestleManias that need rebooking. And I'm out for now, guys. And peace.